How's it going, listeners? Welcome back to Cubold. In this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about the upcoming game Restitched, featuring the Trixel Creative Development Group.
Yes.
Yep. It's time.
How's it going, everyone? Guys, we're live, and we are introed in.
Lovely, lovely.
So, yeah, so we have the Trixel Creative Group with us. We're super excited. And I'll just let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves and what your role is and your names.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Billy. I'm one of the co-founders, co-owners of Trixel Creative. I'm the narrative lead of Restitched. So I'm the lead writer and sort of the lead director of sort of story elements as well.
Awesome.
Next person.
I go by a few names, but some may recognize me as Ozzy or Whale, but my actual name is DeRose. I may be recognized from the live stream some time ago where I modeled one of the contest winners. I'm essentially on the team as a sort of lead 3D artist. I help direct some of the art-related questions.
Awesome.
So I'm Luke. Some of you may know me as Saurus. I'm one of the 3D animators on the team. I'm the one who's been, along with the other animator Brendan, I'm part of the animation team that animates Stuffy and is bringing him to life on the big screen.
Oh, wow.
Small screen, depending on your resolution.
Steam Deck.
Yeah.
We're going to bring up Steam Deck later on. I don't know if you guys are into that.
I just have to find out, won't you?
Yeah, we'll have to find
To be continued.
All right.
Michael?
Hey, I'm Michael. I'm one of the lead programmers of Restitched. You may also know me as Acidic Light or Rose the Talo in the Discord server. I've been here for about a year and a half and lead programmer for about a year. It's been really fun, and yeah.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, I'm Raphael. I'm one of the lead programmers on the project. I've been here since pretty much the start of the game. I'm a software engineer with almost 2 years experience in the games industry, and I think I'm quite passionate about empowering people, and so I'm really excited about what we're doing with Restitched, and it's great we get to talk about it today.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's great to meet you all. Before we jump into all the questions, because believe me, we have a lot of questions. We're very curious, and we're very excited to have you on the podcast. I am curious, though. Aside from obviously the main topic of what we're going to be talking today about, what kind of games are you guys interested in, or what kind of games do you guys play in your pastime? Like, what do you guys like to play?
Your main games.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment, I'm a pretty big Nintendo fanboy at the moment. So, like any first-party Nintendo game, I'm all over that at the moment. Although, saying that, most recently, like the past week, I recently discovered Prison Architect, I've been playing that so many hours every day. I think I have about 50 hours, and I started it just over a week ago.
Oh my.
It's insane.
Those kinds of games are my weakness. If I get started on one of those, I'll put 70 hours in a week. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then you'll put it down in 2 weeks and never touch it again.
Exactly,
Yeah, seriously.
RimWorld's one of those games for me.
I never tried RimWorld.
It's pretty similar to Prison Architect.
Huh.
But it's
same
addicting.
graphic style.
No, I've not played that.
Oh, don't get me started on RimWorld. Not recently, but a month ago, I think I poured about 2 months of work into RimWorld. It's addictive.
It really is. I have to keep it far away from me because I won't do anything else.
I know, Jay, you're obsessed with Dwarf Fortress.
Not obsessed.
Or
but
not obsessed, but you got it a while back.
I got it
when
recently.
The new version of it, not the old one.
I played both, and the new one is definitely a lot more fun because they have an actual interface and not just a bunch of characters on the screen. But yeah, those types of games are a weakness for me.
On the topic of dwarves, I've been playing a lot of Deep Rock Galactic.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fun game.
Yeah.
That's a really fun
I've been
game.
playing I've been playing a lot of that and mostly more story-based games or fast-paced games like the recently released Crab Champions. Because I
That
just
game
really
looks
like
funny.
I saw that. I
I-
actually want to try that.
it's really fun. And
Huh.
I personally am someone who really likes fast-paced games.
Oh,
So
same.
that's why on my Steam account you see I have too many hours logged into games like Team Fortress 2.
Hey,
So,
did you try the finals? When that
can you
was
repeat that?
the finals?
The
Have you tried that?
finals.
It
You
was
guys heard
in
of it?
open beta recently.
I've never kind of
Oh,
no idea what it
no,
is. Sorry.
that
Yeah,
so
it
Ozzy,
sounds familiar.
Ozzy, that game should be on your radar because that game is fast paced, very similar to Team Fortress. It's amazing.
Basically, the game was made by ex-DICE developers
Mhm.
from Battlefield,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
the entire map is destructible.
Oh wait,
Um,
You
I've
probably have
Okay.
seen
I've seen
gameplay
Seagull
from it.
playing
You
this
just
on
didn't know the
stream.
name.
Love that.
But
Yeah, I've never seen
remember
Seagull play it.
I remember playing. I'm not sure if you guys remember like Battlefield 1945 that was on like the 360 and the PS3.
I
That
That
love
was like
that
the
game.
first game I played of
yeah.
destructible environments, and it was amazing. I loved that. To be able to knock over walls and stuff is so much fun.
yeah,
On the
older
topic
Battlefield
of-
games have the better destruction than the new ones.
yeah,
On
2042.
the topic of like destructive games, have any of you played Red Faction?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my, yes, that is
No, but I've seen.
oh,
That's Red Faction Gorilla probably has like some of the most satisfying destruction I've ever done in a game.
Mhm.
I was obsessed with that game as a kid.
yeah, that game was my
like
childhood.
that game.
I
Definitely.
mean, speaking of destruction, my game has nothing to do with that, so it's a totally terrible transition. But as what DeRose said before, I mean, Team Fortress 2, I've been absolutely nerding over that a lot recently. Again, it's like every month, every 2 months, I fall back into the trap of playing it.
Mm.
Though I think Deep Rock is also another one I've delved a lot of time into.
Both those games are games that people put thousands of hours in,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
don't even blink an eye.
Especially Team Fortress.
I'm not telling you my Team Fortress 2 hours.
Oh no. I don't think
I'm
I've
currently
ever.
at 3,500.
Oh wow.
That's
That's
Yeah.
I think
that's a-
both Caleb and I
Amateur.
have around 450 in PUBG, but that's like
Yeah.
the highest amount of
I
time
think
we've
it's-
put into one individual game.
yeah, I think it's because of the podcast, we jump around to a lot of different games because like we have to cover them a lot of times.
Right.
But there are
Yeah.
like one game that we get really trapped into every couple years. We come back to it is Rust, and I don't know if you guys have played Rust, but when you play Rust,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a full
It's
time.
always been on my radar.
Yeah, it's a full time job. Like there's even there's even a companion app where you can check on your phone and watch your security cameras to make sure you're not being
Oh,
raided.
no.
Like it
Oh,
takes
that's
forever.
lethal.
If you're
You
thinking
never
about
leave.
getting into it, then just be warned.
Yeah.
People will
Wow, I
wake
feel
you
like
up
a
at
real
3 in the
loser
morning
now.
and say you're getting raided, so everyone hops on,
Uh-huh.
totally zombified, like out of sleep.
Yeah.
I got Rust when it still had zombies.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, the
Oh,
zombie
wow.
servers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Oh my!
that.
I've got so little experience. I mean, like, I feel like such a loser now because I think you guys said like, 450 hours is like max point to that. And that's probably like a lot of hours, and it's just like looking at my gallery, it's like 2,800. Like, maybe I should like get another hobby.
That's just because it didn't track our PS3 hours.
Oh.
We'd have way
my.
more.
yeah.
if that were the
Oh
case.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 450 is just on Steam,
Yeah.
not counting anything else we've done.
How about you, Michael? I don't think you've said what game you're playing recently.
Well, that's because, well, I'm kind of blind, so playing games is a little difficult for me. But I do
Oh.
play. I have been playing Cyberpunk 2077 recently. It's very much not easy, but I've gotten pretty far in the game. I'm invested in the story more than anything. So I'm okay with like kind of getting through the hell and of how to aim and stuff like that and how to navigate the world. It's a process, but it's been quite fun.
Wow.
I've also been playing, not so much recently because I've been busy with Restitched and stuff, but I also play City Skylines on occasion. I can zoom into the screen and stuff like that to be able to,
Mm.
Oh my
to
god.
play that.
Huh.
I had a time where I played that game every day. Yeah.
Hmm.
What is it?
That's
I,
another one of those games like Prison Architect.
What is it? I was into Anno 1800 for a while.
Actually
Anno
looks really
1800
fun.
is really really good. It's like a kind of like City Skylines. If you guys heard of it.
I thought it was more like Age of Empires. No.
No, it's
Oh.
like it's a city builder.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Oh,
city
that
builder.
could be good because
Oh.
I sunk a lot of time into City Skylines.
Let's see.
I've been
I think
looking for like
the
Age
second game
of Empires for
too.
ages.
Age of Empires is fun too.
Yeah. What was that?
I
Raphael?
try to be.
It was like my childhood. I've been playing some like Civ Rev as well because that's like as close to it as I can get.
I try to be careful with those games because I don't remember which Civilization game it was, but it was on the 360, and I just remember saying like, "Oh, sure, I'll try this game," and I ended up playing it all day. And, that game just
Sucks you in.
you don't just pick it up and say, "I'll play it for a bit."
Yeah.
God, you remind me of the dark times when I got into Total War Warhammer, which I think some similarities was kind of. Actually, I don't know. I've not actually played Sid Meier's, so this might have no similarities at all. But I remember I got so addicted. I didn't even play the game long, but I think I put like 26 hours in one day. I don't even know how that's possible.
What? What? You bent time and space just to play this game.
just to play more.
Wow. I don't think Raphael. I don't think we got what you've been playing.
Yeah, I've been playing Deathloop recently. Don't know if you've heard of it. It's yeah, I didn't know what to expect when I started playing it, and then I love the exploration of that game. Obviously, you get to play on the same maps all over again, but everything is a little bit different every time, and as you learn more about the world, it gets more and more exciting. And yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. I love unlocking the weapons and finding different ways of killing all the leads in there. So yeah, it was great fun. I enjoyed that a lot.
Are you looking forward to Redfall by the same people coming out next month?
To be honest, I got into the game not because I knew it was made by Bethesda. I just heard about it, so I'm not really following that much. But yeah, it was great fun.
Yeah, Deathloop is made by Arcane, and Arcane also did Dishonored. They did Prey, and then they're doing Redfall, and they also did Deathloop.
I'm excited for Redfall.
It's really I love Arcane.
I'm also excited for Redfall.
Yeah. You know, I actually didn't even know. I thought it was going to be more of like a Back 4 Blood type thing, but Chug said that it's going to be...
It's open world Far Cry-esque.
That's crazy.
It is. It's open world, and it's like 4 players, and you can pet a robot dog, and I'm excited for that.
That's a
Okay,
selling
that's-
point.
yeah,
I was
you
like,
can
okay,
pet
the Far Cry, the open world, yeah. Oh, you can pet a robot dog.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like,
Take my
I'm pretty
$70
sure I was in the.
There's a
remember
game
being
we
in the
played
voice
for the
chat with my
podcast,
partner, and I was like,
and there's a cat in it, and you couldn't pet the cat.
Oh,
And that
what
was-
game was that?
I don't
No, it
remember.
was the dog
Yeah, we just
Two out
wanted
of
to.
in
10.
Somerville.
Yeah,
Somerville, yeah.
Somerville. That made me so mad.
Yeah.
oh no.
You
Did
like...
you guys play Stray?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, Stray's
You guys
amazing.
play Stray?
Love Stray.
I didn't know anything about it except there was a cat, and I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. Cat.
I think
Major selling point, cat.
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
that was the beauty of the game, though, was that you didn't know
Yeah.
what would happen. Like I went in the same way, where it's like, okay, I'm a cat, and I'm not sure what the game's gonna do. And then all of a sudden it opened up and it just blew me away. That game was amazing.
One of the best indies.
Oh yeah, but didn't it win indie best indie game
I
last year?
think it did. Yeah, on the Steam
Game
Awards.
Steam Awards, yeah,
Yeah, it did win
Yeah.
some awards. I remember.
yeah. All right, well, we got a bit of that out of our system. We definitely have a lot of questions. I want to keep it as relaxed as possible, but there are a lot of questions that we want to ask, and I'm sure a lot of everyone who's watching is curious about them as well. Let's see.
We can get into what is Restitched.
That
What
would
is
be
it?
best. Yeah. So whoever wants to explain it over there, what is Restitched to you? Like, how would you describe Restitched?
I'll let Billy take the floor on this one.
Yeah, Billy. That's
Okay.
Narrative.
Main man, Billy.
Yeah, well, it's sort of Restitched is, I mean, a lot of us on the team, if not all of us, are sort of massive fans of like user-generated content games, and it's pretty much like I want to say it's like a love letter to like our favorite sort of user-generated content games. It's a 2.5D sort of puzzle platformer game. We're aiming to have some combat elements in there as well. Yeah, I mean, we're all like a group of like hobbyist game developers. We're all sort of doing this in our spare time, so it really is sort of a passion project and a labor of love. Yeah, I'd say it's like a love letter to our favorite games, and sort of wanting to allow the community to create experiences that we had as well.
I'm actually curious, how did you guys all like come together and start Trixel Creative?
So Trixel Creative, it started. It was the other sort of co-owner, Halston. It started quite a few years ago, sort of back in 2013, where we'd make stuff in other games. We'd put sort of a Trixel Creative name on it to like, I don't know, show that we were like a group of people who were working on this, even though each project was like a completely different set of people. I think Halston was like the only thread throughout every project. But I had also sort of started my own sort of team that did a similar thing. So I was playing all sorts of games and like creating content, and had a little group of friends. And then we sort of merged them together, kept the Trixel Creative name, and then it sort of snowballed from there, really. Became an official company a couple years ago, and
So you guys are all working
it's sort of
online, like you don't have like a studio or anything?
No, yeah, we're all online. That's sort of I think an amazing part of Trixel Creative is that we're all sort of spread out all over the world. So there's so many different viewpoints and sort of cultures that go into Trixel Creative. We're not all confined to sort of one location.
I know Chug wants to ask him something next, but I just want to say that how you describe Restitched as being a love letter, we feel the same way. If we had the know-how and we were as talented as you guys are, we would have done the same thing, because we have that same connection to those games in our past that made such a big impact on us. So I think that's
right.
That's very encouraging to hear that, because you didn't say that you're doing it for money or you're doing it for exposure, but you're doing it as a love letter to games in the past that it's kind of hard to find. You can't really find games like that now, so that's why we're so excited. This
Exactly.
So,
I know.
That's kind of one of the reasons we wanted to do it as well, because like it's a genre that's not really explored that much at all. Like, what other 2.5D puzzle platformer user generated content games? Like there's I can count them on one hand.
Yeah,
it's really not a genre that's been explored, and we sort of wanted to.
I know.
I don't know if anyone else.
Yeah, with me, I'm a newer member on the team. I only joined last year, and when I saw the trailer for Restitched come out, that's when it was kind of on my radar a bit before. But when I saw like the trailer come out, I'm thinking, this is something I want to work on. It wasn't like, oh, I want this out of this, I want this. I saw it and I'm thinking, this looks like it's something that has passion put behind it. And when I got onto the team, everything that was all right. I was like, everyone here is just wants to work on this game. We're all here to put our all into it. It's not just like meeting a quota or something like that. And it's true. It genuinely is a passion project. I'm passionate about this project, so I suppose I can add the love to that.
Yeah. I mean, I was even going through the Trixel Creative server, and everyone's so passionate. You guys always are giving updates. Your updates are thorough. They're exciting. It's something that I haven't honestly seen ever. So,
do you guys have a large backing? Do you guys like get any monetization from anything, or is it just all, like as you said before, a passion project?
It is. So we don't really, all our monetizations. Sorry, I struggle saying that word, monetization. That all comes from our Patreon.
Okay.
And whatever merch is up, but that all goes to, sort of, that's all spent on like our website plans or storage plans, licensing assets for audio libraries and that kind of thing. None of that money sort of goes through us. We're all doing this as sort of a hobby. So we don't have. I think because we don't have like a big studio or anything backing us, it really is just how we tackle things how we want to and when we want to. We do sort of give ourselves like deadlines for some things, but like they're really flexible. Like
You're not being
we know we're all
crunched.
doing this in our spare time.
I think that's one main reason why it's such a passion project, is because it is something we're doing in our spare time. There's no kind of monetization like, oh, I'm gonna get rich off this. No, it's literally like, like I said before, we want to work on it, and it's in our time. So when we want to work on it, it's because we want to work on it.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think, a big difference between like you guys and a lot of other studios, because like the huge studios, they have crunch culture over there, and that causes them to push out games that are half finished and unoptimized and all that stuff. So that's another reason why we're so excited for Restitched, because we know that there's passion behind it, and you truly want to release a finished product.
Yeah.
And it's like, especially with that like crunch culture as well. I mean, I'm a big advocate for mental well-being, mental health. Like, if people want to take time off, take time off. I mean, Halston's taken a month off at the moment. Our other Corona, he's off at the moment, just because he's sort of moving house. And we're like, yeah, just take some time off. I took a few months off like a couple of years ago. Like, it really is whatever's best for you, how you want to tackle things. Yeah.
I gotta say, even. I assume that your goal eventually is to have the point where you guys can do this full time, that's an assumption. I'm not sure if that's true, but what I want to say is that I feel that even if you got, you were to the point where you are established and you're profitable and all those type of things, I still think because of the type of character that you all have, you still wouldn't conform to that crunch culture, or you wouldn't conform to only there just to make money. I feel that you as a team, from what we've, even just the short amount of time where we got to know you, I still feel that the heart of your studio would still be in the right place.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just come in here, and I think you just look at Trixel Creative website and all the things that have been created even before this project, and throughout all of this, you just see a level of polish that is just incredible. I think that, certainly one of the reasons I was so excited about joining the team is that I think we really try to do things right here. So I'm sure this is something that all the leads of the Trixel Creative have take great pride in, and I'm sure we'll take that forward in the future.
Yeah. So what we've seen here with you all, I mean, you guys, you are all such nice, kind, and inspiring people. And from what I've seen from
Thank
your
you.
Wow, yeah, thank you.
Well,
That means a lot.
I don't hear that every day.
well,
Yeah.
the thing is, this is what we do. We talk about these studios, and it's always so negative because these people are just out to make money. They don't care about their community. They don't care about the project they're working on. So it's such a refreshing thing to find a group of people who are kind and not just completely toxic
And passionate about video games and in childhoods, and I don't know.
I feel like it'd be so rare for us to jump on a call with some of the bigger studios out there and say, hey, what games are you playing right now? I guarantee you would be, nothing, because we don't play games. We just make games to make money.
Also,
Now,
it
hold
would
on.
be
Look, I have to stop you there. There's a lot of great people in the games industry, and even in the big studios.
Yeah.
And it's a tough business out there. So that's why you see some. I don't want to defend everyone, but I do want to add a grain of salt here that there's a lot of great people, and sometimes, not everyone in a studio is delighted with the mistakes that some people make, and it is what it is. But some people need to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So I think that's understandable.
Yeah.
But certainly I think it's a great thing that everyone is pushing to end things like crunch and to demand higher standards. And it's great we have this scrutiny.
Yeah, I think it's more of the
I-
execs that are or putting the crunch on the developers who are actually passionate.
Yeah, and some people are too
add on
harsh.
before, sorry, about one thing about, it's not like we're not negative toxicity, but I think one key factor that I think helps us with like kind of cohesion between everyone is that we're not toxic positivity either, where we kind of overdo it and say everything's great, everything's fine. If I upload an animation it is work in progress, someone might say, oh, this looks a bit janky. Have you seen kind of looked into this, and have you tried doing this? And then I've been able to make a great finished product because of it. It's not that everyone's too nice to be mean to each other either. And I think that's a rarer thing you don't see or hear often is toxic positivity, where because no one raises a point, it can lead to the same effect as, just general negative toxicity, you know what I mean? And that's one thing that I just wanted to add on about the whole team flow.
Yeah. No, yeah.
You need to have those negatives, or else
or criticisms.
Your product isn't gonna come across exactly what everybody wants.
Yeah.
The gaming community is definitely too harsh on developers in general.
Oh, yeah.
They're so entitled, and I think they should have everything perfect in their game.
Mm-hmm.
The Sons of the Forest released recently, and we really enjoyed that. It's still in early access, but people are so harsh to the developers, saying oh, it was just about money, but they've been releasing updates every 2 weeks that are insane.
Yeah.
And no other company releases updates that big in that short amount of time.
I think that's the thing I was getting at is that if we sat down with the developers, we'd have an excellent conversation. I guarantee they're passionate. But then like Billy, you are, co-owner. So it's like if we were to sit with another co-owner of a massive studio, it may not be the same type of conversation.
Right.
But just to move things forward, you guys are great. But who do you see your community as? Who makes your community? I know we talked previously about the love letter to those games in our past, and we all kind of share that connection to those. So who can you say anything about your community and your patrons and Discord server?
Yeah. Well, the community really sort of make us without the community, without all their support, without the Patreon, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So I'm so grateful for the community, every bit of support. It's I see when you said who are your community, I see a lot of ourselves in the community, these people who are so passionate about user-generated content games. I think a big part of it as well is just sort of having fun, which sounds really silly saying for a video game, because of course, but it's just people just want to have fun, and we want to provide that.
Sorry, which I really like what you said, because I thought when you said when you look in the community, you see us. I'm thinking that from one perspective might sound that sounds kind of general, but actually thinking about it, you are right. I see a lot of people in the community that I chat with, and I'm basically on the same wavelength with them. It's they're very cool people. There's a lot of very cool people in the community.
They want the same thing.
And if it wasn't for the community, Stuffy Pog wouldn't exist. So just putting it out there. I love Stuffy Pog.
A lot of us were members of the community, and we submitted a form, and me and House and all the other leads read it, and we'd love to have you on board. A lot of us are or were the community. I don't know how to say that with sounding cohesive, but yeah.
And if I can add something, thinking about the community, sometimes it's hard to forget who's on the team as an official developer and who's just part of the community, because the other week I was having some weird issue with our source control tool, where I just could not pull the game and something was corrupting. I couldn't figure it out, and none of us on the team could figure it out at the time. So I went up to the community, and someone actually helped me troubleshoot it, and we figured it out. And now I'm able to work on the game again, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think the only difference between ourselves and our community is that we're actively making it. Like that's the only difference. Like if the community say, oh, they really want this feature, we'll be like, yeah, us too. Like yeah, like we play the same games. We are the same community. We know what like is what we want, like that sort of thing.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
Of course.
So on the whole topic of like most of us started out in the community, I'm surprised I even managed to become the 3D art lead, because like someday I did just join the server and was like, this game looks pretty cool. Looks like a really nice project. I'll kind of lurk around and see if see how it develops. And then at some point it was like, oh, we're looking for a 3D artist. And I was like, oh, okay, let me put together a portfolio, and did that in like 2 days. And then suddenly I'm part of the team, and I'm like, oh, I did not expect that.
I cannot believe how relatable our story is, because I started as a community member, and then when I was thinking about joining the team, I'm thinking, I have all this stuff, but I have no portfolio, so I just scattered together like, oh, this is my best work, quickly, put it on. I'm thinking, I wasn't going to hit submit, but my friend convinced me, just submit the form, you got nothing to lose. I obviously had nerves. And then they come back saying like, wow, this works fantastic, you should definitely be working for us. I'm like, really?
Awesome.
And of course
I'm
now,
so glad you pressed that send button. Oh my god.
Oh, you charmer.
So we've covered the inspiration for the game, as you said before, user-generated stuff. But can you guys tell us a bit more about the story of the game? I don't know if you guys can give us any more information on that.
Yeah. So the story is something we haven't spoken too much about, just because we want to, get the actual game itself in a more sort of presentable state so that we can show the story in the game and show it that way. We have revealed that it's about, this big tyrannical corporation that's wreaking havoc on the world, and Stuffy's trying to, they've like torn apart this world, and Stuffy is, wink wink, restitching it together. We briefly mentioned as well that Stuffy is looking for, like, as well as restitching the world, that's sort of although that is sort of the main driving factor of the world itself and the situation of the world, Stuffy's main sort of goal is actually to sort of reunite with their original owner, which I think we've briefly touched on before, but it hasn't been like a big story point that we've sort of focused on. But they are, as you explore this world, you're sort of picking up hints and using your environments to try and find your original owner. And they're called Malika, which we haven't revealed before.
Whoa.
The owner's called Malika.
New info.
The lore.
Yeah. And it's so exciting, all the concept art and everything of the characters. And I have this big story document which I've completely revised so many times. But I'm really, really happy with the story at the moment. I think it's,
I did see.
I don't want to
you
like
guys
big
had-
myself up and say some of my best work, but I'm really proud of it.
You guys had a comic series apparently. It says Patreon exclusive, but I did notice on your site it did say you guys release weekly comics, or I don't know when you specifically release them, but
Yeah, so on our Patreon we post a page every month of the grandiose tales of Captain Stuffy, which is about two kids, Charlie and Eloise Dior, who have Charlie has a Captain Stuffy plushie, Eloise has a Puddle Stuffy, and it's about sort of what takes place in their imagination as they sort of, the car ride home from the store, getting them, playing at home together. It's all what happens in their imagination, which really allows us to sort of comics and using the imagination specifically really allow us to do a lot. So I'm really excited as to where the story is about to go there.
I just wanted to add as
that's
well,
really fun.
the story. I've read it. Obviously, I won't say anything, but there's one character which I'm so looking forward to. I read the story does seem pretty good, and I think I mentioned it in the recap where I said the story itself, I really, really like, because I was actually expecting it to be quite maybe like flowery or like too cutesy, you know, maybe go too far in one direction or the other. But after reading it through, I'm thinking, yeah, this works. You know, I really like this story.
So how far are you
really sort
planning
of sorry.
Oh, I was going to talk about like as far as the story goes, how are you presenting that? Is there voice acting, or are you presenting it through text or some other way?
So voice acting isn't something we've really decided on yet. I think that'll be a much later decision, as we sort of develop the tools and whether that can be sort of possible within the editor. At the moment, the script outline, it does have scenes and cutscenes, but it really depends on how the game engine itself evolves. I'm really sorry.
Oh, sorry, guys. I was literally just spitballing, because I'm thinking, like, I know it's not been decided whether voice acting or not, but like I could just imagine, like, we just get random people from the team to be voice actors, like, hey, it's me, John Duty, you know, it's like that's
John
my
Duty.
voice. Yeah, I'm like one of the voice actors now, like.
You're leaking all the characters over here. You just leaked John.
Whoa.
What was it? Duty.
John Duty. I don't know what I said, but you know what I mean. It's just
that's not
like last minute voice acting that's like really terrible.
That reminds me of
I
a
think
game on
something
Steam.
I want.
It's called Hidden Folks, and it's this indie game. Every sound in the game is made by the guy just making sounds in his mic, and it's hilarious. I love it. It's like a Where's Waldo type game with all these sounds in there.
That's amazing.
So fun. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think because there's so many different opportunities. Like, for example, I don't know if you guys have played like Breath of the Wild, where it's like games like that have like an ident and then text. I think that would be quite cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think one thing I wanted to touch on as well in relation to the story itself, because I know Luke said that he was expecting it to be really flowery and stuff. I'm really inspired by like Pixar films, like how they're for all ages, but they do have a lot of them have a very serious, like Up, for example, like with the woman who dies right at the beginning,
That movie's so
and it's
sad.
like that's so like I'm really inspired by like a family story that's presentable for everyone, but also has very serious and like a serious message and themes in it as well.
Billy, I'm not sure if you've ever seen it, but when you first described the quick summary of this, what direction the story was going to go, I immediately thought of a short series on Netflix. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's called Lost Ollie, and it's very much like, it's almost like if you can imagine a Pixar film but with dark tones to it. Like it's still family friendly, but it's got like very serious and very real emotions in it. I definitely recommend giving it a watch. It may give you some inspiration.
That sounds amazing. I'll write that down.
Yeah, it's excellent. It's like it's a little plushy toy that is looking for its owner, and it goes on this whole adventure. It's a very good mini series, but it's definitely one of those ones where it's heavy. So I'm probably not going to watch it again because I don't want to go through those emotions again. But, I definitely recommend it.
You reminded me of that movie. What is that? Really dark. Like, what, that 9? I think it's called. That really messed up story. Imagine that story took that twist. It just instantly just changed the entire mood of the game.
I remember watching that as a kid, and it was so depressing. That movie was very, very heavy as a kid. Even now, watching it would be tough. But that's great. That's very interesting. So, well, Jay, I think you had a question that you were gonna bring up.
Oh, I lost my place here. So like we talked about the story. So how difficult is the development process?
There's a lot of code.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's very open-ended, but like, is it taking a long time because there's so much you want to add, or just because you want to get things right and you're taking your time?
I'd definitely say it's a mix of both. Where some things are genuinely a little difficult. A lot of us are learning things for the first time. I mean, it was mentioned before how we had a programming snafu, and it was before we could even continue developing, we had to kind of get help. But for example, with me as part of an animator, it's mostly just getting it right. Because I know this specific animation is going to be played thousands of times by so many people. So I'm thinking I am not accepting this 0.5 second animation until it's perfect.
Yeah, and I know there's always the temptation to be really like trying to get things perfect, but like people say that perfect is the enemy of good sometimes. And I know I like to try to get things perfect a lot of times, and I'll obsess over it to the point where like other things start to suffer because I want to make this one thing perfect. And I'm sure that's challenging for you guys too.
It's like
I think
wait, what is it?
I think especially so since we don't have, as I say, we do have deadlines that we have. Like for example, when we wanted to get the trailer out, we knew what features we wanted, and we knew sort of a rough estimate of when we wanted the trailer out. Although it ended up being 6 months later than what we actually sort of had as like a soft deadline. But I think because we are so lax, sometimes it can be hard to fall into that. Keep working on it and improve it. Yeah, that perfect the enemy of good is like a very like true
Say
thing.
the other side of it with I don't know if you guys definitely heard of it, but Goat Simulator.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the opposite of perfect.
Yeah, perfect gaming.
Yeah.
It's perfect, but on the other side of the spectrum. It's like it's
like
kind
an
of weird.
oxymoron.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's like it's like
so, like,
It's so bad
it's like
good.
anti-perfect.
yeah, but it's meant to be that
I mean,
way. I love it.
I'm really lucky with animating because if something's just not going my way, I've spent like hours on this. I'm thinking this animation is just not what I want. I don't scrap it. I just kind of put it into miscellaneous, and I can end up reusing it for something else later, which is a very handy thing of animating, is that any motion could be used for a lot of actions. So if I have I put his hand up in a certain way, thinking this doesn't look right, hey, I'm going to reuse this for something else. So then, even if something's not perfect, it could end up being perfect for something else for me.
No wasting anything.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned as well. With are there like so many ideas that we want to like put in, and that's why it's taking a while. I think the biggest reason for it development being as long as it is because we're such a small team and we're all doing it in our spare time. Like we don't have like a 10-hour work day or whatever that with like hundreds of staff, which some other studios do. Like it is literally like a very small scale operation. But we have a Trello page which we use for like everything. Like every detail or aspect of the game is there. And we do have a list now of like, these are the things we definitely want in for launch, and like a priority list on there. So we're like slowly working through that at the moment.
Do you consider that you're developing your own game engine? Kind of like how Dream on the PS or the PlayStation 4 is?
I think maybe that's a good question for Michael or Raph.
I mean, that's where having two lead programmers is kind of challenging because we might disagree. But
okay, Michael, you go first.
I don't really. I mean, from the technical side of things, we're not developing a game engine. We're using a game engine. We're using Unity. But from the conceptual side of things, I would say yes and no. Yes, because like we do have this whole level editor system. There's a lot of custom rendering going into the game to make it look the way that it does, and a lot of really low level stuff going on that isn't necessarily tied to Unity. But at the same time, we're also using Unity, and it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of rendering 3D models onto the screen and rendering the sky and all that wonderful visual stuff. That's all mostly taken care of by Unity itself, not us. But also we're the one writing the build system for build mode and the level save system and all that stuff. That's all us, and that's very technical and very low level. And we're also building. It's been teased in the recaps lately, but we're also building a logic system to be able to basically script out different actions in the level, make things move, make things interactable, and having that kind of logic or scripting system is very game engine-y. But also, our intention is not to build a game engine; it's to build a level editor and a actual game using that level editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've dabbled
Well, I
in
agree with you,
Unity a
Michael.
bit, and like Unity in itself and all that stuff is a whole, like it's extremely difficult in a lot of ways. But it's even more difficult for you guys since you're trying to make a program that users can also see as fairly easy to use. So, like you're using this more difficult program to make development easy for the users, and there's just a lot going on there. I could see why that'd be very difficult.
You know, sorry.
I suppose. Sorry, Billy was go.
I think a big part of that, I think it would be really good if Halston was here, because Halston is creating a lot of the UI for the game and conceptualizing a lot of that. So there's really a lot of work in trying to make it as user friendly as possible, whilst also having all these features and the such in there. Yeah, I know we've gone after. We're currently working towards in the recaps. I can't remember which one it was. We sort of showcased a brand new level editor like menu, like the craft book. We completely reconceptualized, and that's been worked on. But yeah,
It's interesting you said that, like, kind of taking so it still could be easy, but like a more difficult engine, turn it into say an easier one. And I guess you could say that about all kind of game or map creation games, because I mean, to me personally, I mean, I boot up Blender thinking, oh yeah, but I boot up like Unity or like Hammer Editor, and I'm like, nah. That's why like these kind of game making like tools are so approachable. That's the main thing, that it's approachable, and because it's kind of directed towards a certain genre usually, then it's people who have a passion in that can really just let themselves go and just make what they want, rather than to have to go out of way and watch like six like 50-minute tutorials and all that. They can just hop in and just go for it.
Yeah, like ideally you shouldn't know that Restitched uses Unity behind the scenes. It should just be Restitched. Like that's the goal with the build mode.
That's a good way to summarize it. So kind of two questions in one. I mean, obviously what you're doing is so complicated. I think it's going the extra mile than what a lot of other developers are doing, because not only are you building a game, but you're building a game that has the functionality of allowing users to kind of build their own mini games within that system. So, what are the hurdles and difficulties that you've had to deal with and that you are currently dealing with? And additionally, after that, as much as you can tell us, what exciting features can you share and that, you can tell us players can be excited for?
I think it's definitely one. I think we could, in terms of difficulties, it'll be nice to go down the list, but in terms of features, I think it'll be best for Billy to take the lead on that. But
yeah,
I guess because we're all in like different kind of categories of development. So yeah, I guess if we go down from top, we could see what everyone else is kind of going through.
So with the story, it's writing the story with the level editor changing and like providing new opportunities and that kind of thing. The boundaries of what we can make sort of changes. So it's sometimes there's a lot of sort of editing and tweaking and going back. It's with I think it's really challenging to sort of add a feature that sounds cool but works in a modular way so that it can be used in the level editor. For example, like enemies, we mentioned before, it's like we are focusing on sort of a more combat element as well with gameplay. So there is sort of like slashing and that kind of thing. With enemies, for example, it's like how do we add enemies? Like they need to be designed in a way that fits in with art styles and then works across like the whole worlds. Yeah, there's a lot to think about.
How about?
I'll go next. So, something that can also sound simple on paper, but then when you get to the technical side of it, anyone who's played a game with any sort of player customization will know exactly how much you can break just by customizing something. In this case, what I mean is the like costumes, or not costumes, but just the outfits, or like say, for example, in another game, you may have an outfit or a customization system that will look good, but then you'll go online and you'll see someone who looks absolutely hideous. And such an example would be a well-known game, Team Fortress 2. Some people may look normal. You may see someone who might get your video demonetized. So, in that sense, it's like now you have Restitched. You need to make sure that every cosmetic can essentially look good with a variety of other cosmetics. You need to make sure that they won't clip with each other. You need to make sure that the overall data set is still done well. You have to manage the art styles. And then, well, in my opinion, the art style is the easy part. The hard part is trying to make it work well with the rest of the game. Because there are so many ways you can easily mess up with character customization. And you see that in a lot of games that have broken releases.
I mean, with me, it's a little bit of what Billy said before, actually, with the whole modular kind of with the attack kind of system he mentioned before, animating every single different way, or like trying my best to like make it work, trying to animate different ways in which this action could occur here, but what if they're in a different way, swinging it from this way, and it's trying to make it look good but also sync up to the other animations. And that's definitely one thing that I've been like really trying to nail at the moment. It's been quite difficult when it comes to, you have to think of animations beyond animations. And I guess another general one would just be flow. I'm trying to keep things consistent, bouncy. If this animation has a lot of bounce, it should have it in all of them, and try and keep consistent. Consistency can actually be quite hard in animation when you're going for a certain style.
Especially if you have to make that many things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You're going on with what Billy said about enemies. Another big challenge with adding something like enemies, or really any feature in general, is performance and how the new system or feature or mechanic fits into the rest of the game and the engine. Because when you say as a director, we want to add enemies to the game, well, as a programmer, I'm thinking, okay, well, here's what you need to do that. You need to add the enemies themselves as things you can spawn into the game engine. Then you need to make them move or do whatever activities they're going to do, whether they do attacks or flee the player, the AI kind of stuff. You also need to consider how the enemy gets saved in the level, because this is a UPC game and you can create custom levels. So like, how do you place the enemy on screen and in the level? How does it get saved? How does it get tracked? If it moves while you're in the level editor, how do you undo that move? All that wonderful stuff. And then you also have to think, okay, well, the player is like on the very far west side of the level, but then there's a group of enemies on the east side, way on the other side. And if those enemies are particularly complex in terms of polygons and textures and stuff like that, that's gonna hurt the GPU and even the CPU. So how do you make sure that the enemy doesn't really exist until the player comes into the view, and like if it approaches from one side or the other, or like how big is this screen, because if you have this loading zone, it might be too small for like a 4K screen but fine on 1080p. All these different considerations you have to think of, and it can be kind of time consuming, and you can end up making some mistakes and breaking things, and then you have to fix them, and it's fun, but also terrifying. And another challenge that I run into during development, and one of the features I want to work on, is actually accessibility. And I don't mean accessibility in terms of like how easy is the game to use in general. I mean accessibility as in blind accessibility, deaf accessibility, different input methods. Because one of the big challenges I run into as a player is a lot of games involve a lot of reading. And if you're blind, you obviously can't read. And you may be able to see generally where you are on the screen and where enemies and where platforms and stuff like that are, but it's going to be blurry. And you're not going to be able to read through the user interface and instructions and tutorials and stuff like that. So what I want to do with Restitched eventually is add some sort of, maybe not full-on screen reader support, but some sort of text-to-speech system where you can hover over things in the build mode UI and it'll tell you what they are. Or you can, have, if we don't end up doing voice acting for characters in the game, and it ends up being more of a comic style speech bubble system, you might want to have that read out aloud to you so you can actually, enjoy the story. Those are also challenging too, because text-to-speech works differently on Windows versus a Steam Deck, for example. So you have to consider that as a programmer, and it's a lot of work. There's just a lot of things to consider, and I mean, I enjoy it, but it can also get very tiring at times.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the game and the engine. There's a little something that sits in between that we don't really think about when we play the game. But we need tools. I need to make tools for Doros, for instance, to add cosmetics into the game so that we can decorate Stuffy. And it starts from just a model in Blender, and then somehow it has to go in the craft book. It has to go on your Stuffy. It has to get saved, and then when you load the game the next day, it goes on your Stuffy again. And there's an entire system that goes into this, and Michael's made tools as well so that we can draw the shape of the physical shape of the objects we put into the world. I mean, all sorts of crazy tools we need to make like this that nobody's ever going to see. It's just for us to use internally. So not only do we have to make a level editor within the game, we also need for ourselves an editor of sorts. And so all these tools are things that we need to work on. We used to I made just a JSON file, and then people hated that because they didn't want to know the JSON syntax and say, oh, it's this file with this name and it has this number. It was just terrible. So we have to work on these things as well, and that's perhaps something that people aren't aware that can slow down development if you don't have the right tools. It can be really hard to add new content to the game. So we've had to work on those as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the things people kind of forget a lot of the times with programming of games, you don't see the code. You should never see the code, unless it's an open source game. But generally, games aren't open source. Anyway, I'm rambling. You should never really see what's going on behind the scenes, and that can be really discouraging for some people who like to have that kind of credit or glory, because people won't really be aware that you wrote a particular piece of code in the game unless that code breaks. So what Raphael was mentioning, it was in the recap. I wrote this collision editor for props so you could draw the shape of the props. If that breaks, and for some reason the shape in our editor is different than what actually spawns into the game, you're going to have funky prop collisions and things that just not going to work right, and then I'm going to be really sad because I wrote that feature and it's broken. And I have to fix it.
It's like I like what you said before. Like you've done it. It's like you've done a good job if no one notices.
Mhm.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
Yeah, we've covered the development
Well,
process.
there's one thing
but-
I want to add first.
Okay,
though.
okay.
How difficult do you think moderation is going to be for the user-generated content? I don't know if any of you remember the game Lego Universe from like back in
Oh, boy.
2012, but they shut down. They claimed it was because they didn't have enough people to moderate the user-generated content, and they were pretty huge. That was what they said. I'm assuming it's probably just because of money issues, but that was a big part of it. They wanted to make it
it's
super
definitely-
kid-friendly.
It's definitely going to be a challenge. It's definitely going to. I think with moderation and stuff. Obviously, it's in a user-generated game. It's kind of a free-for-all. Like anyone could create anything. So you really need to be on top of that. I think we haven't so much looked into moderation at the moment. I think that's going to be once we get sort of the online structure or and we know how the systems are going to work. I think that it's definitely going to have to be a priority. But yeah, at the moment we haven't really looked into that too much yet.
I imagine it'll have like standard censorship, on titles and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess
Yeah.
when it comes to actual in-game creations, we'll
I-
have to see
I-
what we can.
Yeah, I assume it'll be heavy on some sort of reporting system.
Flagging and reporting.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Oh,
be,
yeah.
I think we'll be using the Steam Workshop. So there's a plethora of games that are using the Steam Workshop, so we can rely on that.
Steam
No,
Workshop is
that's how
great.
good it is.
Oh, wow.
And obviously we'll work with the community to try and tackle issues as they arise.
Just to wrap this up, I know Chug's going to ask you something else, but hearing you all kind of go through all the various struggles and the hurdles that you're going through really makes me appreciate that what you all are doing is it definitely just listening sounds very it sounds very burdensome. So I think you guys are doing a great thing, and very impressed with all of that and all the development process.
Yeah.
I
you.
guess I imagine we're all very thankful for that. I mean, I imagine it's something that every game team kind of suffers through. So we don't
Right.
want to bleed our hearts out saying, "Oh God, game development's so hard." But of course, it is a thing that is a major factor in what we do every day when we're working on this project.
Yeah, basically, right now, I mean, I know we've been doing Q&A questions technically, but these are just general questions that we have. So the first one is, will the game be better on keyboard or keyboard and mouse or on controller? What are you guys mainly pushing it towards?
So in terms of actually playing the game and playing like sort of levels and community levels and stuff, we are looking for that to be compatible with keyboard and mouse and controller. So there are some tools that would be amazing if you were just using a keyboard and mouse, but we are keeping in mind controller as well. So in terms of gameplay, we want everyone to be able to play it. In terms of the level editor, we are sort of creating that more towards keyboard and mouse, because it's way more intuitive to create the levels with a keyboard and mouse. And it is exclusive for keyboard and mouse for now, the editor itself. Whether that will remain, we're not sure, but yeah. In terms of gameplay, everything, but in terms of creation, it is, yeah.
If I could comment on that, one of the challenges with having controller support in the level editor, like Billy said, a lot of the features are more intuitive on keyboard and mouse. But even if we didn't have those exclusive features, what the challenge is on PC, you don't always have a similar controller layout. Like on console, if you plug in a DualSense into a PS5, it's generally going to be a DualSense. Like you can expect that there's going to be an action button and a back button and triangle and square. There's going to be R1, L1, R2, L2. Like all that stuff's going to be there. But on PC, you could have a controller that has the PlayStation style layout that you're familiar with, or you could have the Xbox layout, which is generally going to be the same, but there are different icons on the button faces. So how do you do that in the UI? But also, you can have other controllers that just have this completely different button layout that is not compatible at all, and then you have to make sure that your game can adapt to that or integrate with some other tool that can handle it for you. Like I believe Steam has some sort of platform-wide way of rebinding controls, but it's still a challenge you have to worry about when implementing controller support because not all controllers are built the same.
And sorry, you just made me think of like that meme of you know, like if you're like the younger brother, you get like the off-brand third-party controller from GameStop.
Yeah.
we gotta think about that.
It was
It isn't plugged in.
And to be clear, it's also a problem with keyboard and mouse because some keyboards have a numpad, and I always say as a programmer, do not bind to the numpad by default because I myself do not have a numpad. So if some other programmer or developer on the team adds some new tool to the game and it relies on having a numpad, I can't use it. It's as simple as that. Or if you bind something to a browser button on a mouse, some mice have a back and a forward button that you can use to go back and forward in your browser. Other mice do not. Some mice have a scroll wheel, some do not. Like it's so challenging because you have all these different forms of input methods that you have to consider how you build your control scheme. It's something else on PC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you know, games that we can think back to that are similar to what you're building were generally always on, you know, just controller. So you're having to do this now, but you're building it with all of these different variables of inputs, and you know you have to account for that. So that is, I assume, is very challenging. So now I guess this is kind of an easy one, although I'm curious to the extent of this, but you know, will Restitched be multiplayer, and to what extent will it be multiplayer? Because you know there is that user generated element to it. So you know what can you say about that?
Yeah, so I think with our team being so community based, and you know, us having experiences in games with multiplayer and stuff, it's definitely something we want to look into and develop for Restitched. But at the same time, it is also a really ambitious feature. Like every aspect of the game will be affected by it. I know we have. There has been some work coding side. I think maybe Raphael or Michael will be able to explain that a bit better to the current state.
Definitely Raphael.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go ahead. There's multiple things to worry about with multiplayer. We have local multiplayer and online multiplayer to think about, and well, do we want to mix the two? So I'll just say that the game is built with multiplayer in mind. That is to say that adding multiplayer won't be as painful as remaking the entire game. So the way I'm approaching it is that it's layer based, right? So if you think about it, you have to synchronize players connecting to each other. That's fairly easy to do. There's lots of tools out there we can integrate. And then we need to synchronize the stuffing moving around. That's a bit harder, but that's another layer, right? So we can break it down into different layers, and so even if we can't deliver a full experience, I'm sure we'll be able to do something and to keep improving it over time. That's really important. We want to work on this over time, and I think we've got foundations to do this. I've been iterating on it a lot, and it's very much something we can't guarantee, but personally, it's something I feel very passionate about. When most of the games I play nowadays, I play with friends, and that's where you find most of the fun. So we'll see, but we're working on it.
Okay.
I know it's still early on right now, but do you have any sort of idea on what the game is going to cost when it releases?
£1 million,
Um,
£2 million for the battle pass.
Don't even go there. No, it's short answer. Pretty much is no. We don't really know at this point. Yeah, we don't even really have any estimates. We would with us being such a small team, and we do have these sort of costs that we do have to pay for. You know, we don't want it to be too much. We do want as many people as possible to be able to get their hands on this game. So we're not gonna go crazy. But yeah, in terms of an estimate, I wouldn't really be able to sort of say at this point.
It's another one of those things that's hard to navigate because of the gaming community.
Yeah.
Like now, like games are going to $70 for these big AAA titles. Those are some games that, like, even if you 100% them, they're like 30 hours of gameplay, but people still pay that all over the place. Yet some indie developer releases a game for $30 and people think it's too expensive. So it's I could see how that'd be really difficult
definitely
for
a
you guys to
balancing
figure
act.
out.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one where it's Terraria, which you get like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours out of if you really wanted to. $10.
Yeah.
It's like there's no balance of like what should cost what.
Yeah.
It really is a balancing act.
Sorry, I'll go in there a little bit. And something that's interesting about games is if you look at how these games have battle passes and DLCs and microtransaction, the thing that the studios, which are businesses, what they're trying to do is they're just trying to appeal to different people. Right? Not everybody can spend $20 on a game every month. Absolutely not. And so studios have to try and target different consumers and have different price levels. So that's why you see this complexity in games. And there's lots of great games out there that are free or very affordable. You can spend a lot of time in there. And then there's other games which are a bit more, more expensive, and then it's more complicated to buy all the DLC. So there's a range of options, and we'll see what we take.
Yeah.
So will we be able to create worlds and publish them? And will there be some sort of developer that would be able to favorite specific levels, kind of like a
Featured level.
a featured level?
I think that really depends on what Steam Workshop sort of allows us to do. We still have to explore that avenue a lot more. We are Houston has created sort of concepts for what our sort of UI would look like, but yeah, we'll definitely. It is sort of a main part of the game that we'll be able to create these levels and then publish them and share them and play other communities levels. That is sort of a massive part, probably the main sort of pillar of the game is that sort of that aspect. So it's definitely, you'll definitely be able to build these levels and then share them.
Because I know,
but yeah, in terms of sorry.
On the Steam Workshop, there's obviously the reviews, the stars, like the 1 to 5 stars. So would that be kind of like what you were talking about before, with the reviews and everything, the favorited levels?
Yeah. It's we just got to get our hands on the Steam Workshop and sort of go into that. But yeah, that isn't something we've put a lot of focus into at the moment. As I say, our main sort of focus is getting the level editor to a state where it's, then we can look into sharing the creations within them. But yeah, it's definitely a massive aspect that we're going to pour a lot of time into.
Oh man, you just made me think. Like, I cannot wait to see how many levels are just called my first level, and I'm going to play every single one of them.
It's so actually it's very interesting to think about that, because previous games, and I'm sure we can all think of some specific ones, but it was very much finding those levels. There was certain categories, there'd be like the cool level, cool worlds, or whatever you want to call them, and that was all integrated in the game. I'm someone who plays, I play Black Ops 3 Zombies a lot, even to this day, and I play it solely because of the Steam Workshop, because people are still developing, these levels and publishing them. So it's a very vibrant community. Now the capabilities that we have, it's going to be very interesting to see how it integrates with Steam. Some games that are, inspiration for this one had, like those developer picks or those developer highlighted ones. So, it's going to be interesting. Something kind of that ties into that is, will we be able to own kind of like a hub world or like your own kind of portfolio in the game where you can showcase your levels?
So we are focusing, as on the Steam Workshop. So everything is sort of saved locally and will appear through those in-game menus. There aren't any plans to feature sort of in-game profiles or extensive social features at the moment, just because of sort of the limitations of the Steam Workshop. But all of your published content can be viewed through the Steam Workshop profile. Okay. So it's yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah, it really is something that will need a lot of focus because that is sort of, if we don't get that right, then the whole experience of the game with the creation and sharing everything will be totally affected. So it's definitely, something we need to. But as I say, that'll be something we'll focus on a bit further down the line. At the moment, our focus is just the game creator itself and sort of the gameplay.
Is the game creator? Sorry to cut you off there, but is it going to be limited in any way? Like, if you add too many assets in the level, it'll cause the game to run poorly. So, like, you dial it back to prevent that.
That's very difficult to answer. There are definitely going to be some limits in the game. It's based on hardware limits. Like, there's only a certain amount of like stamps, for example, that you can have in a level before the GPU literally says, no, I cannot fit any more in RAM. But in terms of, in general, how many objects can you place in a level, it's super difficult to implement some sort of artificial limit on that, because what can happen is you can have a really beefy gaming computer like mine or Aussie's or someone else's that has a really strong CPU, really strong GPU, lots of RAM, lots of disk space, and it'll run a really complex level really well. But then you put it on a tiny little laptop with integrated graphics, and it's gonna struggle. And likewise, maybe you're building level on that little laptop with integrated graphics, and you cannot go as far as you would like to go with that level because your GPU isn't doing it. But then someone else with a gaming computer will play your level and it'll work fine. And there's really no easy way to establish an average on what most computers will be able to reliably run, because there's just so many different forms of computers out there. It's not like a console where maybe you have a base model and a slim model or a pro model or something like that. You have custom-built PCs, you have pre-built PCs, you have Steam Decks, you have laptops, you have other pocket portable PCs out there. You have NVIDIA cards, AMD cards, Intel, AMD CPUs, Intel CPUs, ARM, x64, all these different things that just, it's too much. Like, and you can go by the Steam hardware survey, but not everybody does that, so it's not super reliable. You can, and even operating systems, like someone could run the game on Windows and it'll run fine, but then maybe they'll run it under Valve Proton on Linux, because you can do that now, and maybe it might not run so fine. Like, what do you do about that? Now, hopefully it will, and in my testing it has, so that's good, but there's always the future to consider. There's so much hardware out there that you cannot really put any sort of artificial limit on a level and not have it annoy people. So I guess the strategy would just be to maybe measure the complexity of a level, but not limit it. And I'm not confirming anything. I'm just kind of brainstorming in my head right now. My idea would be to measure the complexity of the level and kind of give a little rating and a warning for lower end devices to say, hey, you might struggle running this, or maybe you might want to turn your graphics settings down. That would be my approach to that, but also I don't know how well that would work because it's so much of a challenge. But yeah, it's definitely something we've been thinking about, how we would go about that.
It's really interesting to think just from my perspective, who doesn't like do programming and all that, because I've got like a moderate okay computer, and going back to I guess following up on the joke before, I imagine if like people want to try and be a bit like trolly or like bad actors, I suppose is the term. Imagine a level called like this level will break your computer, and you boot it up and you just blue screen. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be things in place where we can.
No, Mike, no, we won't do that. No.
No. We'll find ways to make sure that doesn't happen. That's definitely something we can confirm. That one.
You already know. As soon as you publish it, people are going to be finding ways to break it and to break other people's systems.
Yep.
Yeah.
Will the game actually include some sort of like wiring or logic system that lets people create their own devices and stuff in game?
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm only speaking from like the animated perspective from what I've seen, but I've seen some concepts of what we have planned, and I'm thinking it's really good. At least what I've seen. I don't want to overhype anything, of course, but the logic we plan on including is going to allow for a lot more freedom than what you may expect from other games. I think. I'm not sure what I can say, so I will say that yes, and also it's going to be cool.
That's exciting.
Are there going to be any future DLCs or partnerships planned in the future? Like maybe with outfits, you have partnerships from other games. Like I know there's a bunch of games on Steam that have had partnerships with stuff like Shovel Knight. They had
Rivals of Ether did that. Yeah.
Yeah, they added in other stuff from other people's games into it.
Yeah.
We don't even have the game yet.
Oh, I know, but are you guys like thinking about that at all?
Yeah, it's definitely really having collabs and stuff would be really, really cool. I think at the moment we're not looking past launch. Like if there's a feature that one of us has an idea for, or costumes or whatever, we're looking for that to be at launch. We're not looking, okay, maybe this can be post game, like post launch. Sorry, it's as I say, with that Trello document, we do have like a priority list. So every idea that we have goes somewhere on the priority list, and I really think it's just sort of like where we feel comfortable. Once we have like a game in a comfortable state, we could maybe release this now, like in this state, once these things are finished, and then maybe look into that thing. But at the moment, we're not at that stage yet. We are looking at launch, what's going to be there at launch. So DLCs and stuff.
So from my perspective, I'm someone who really loves to design things. So personally for me, I'm not worried about like, this could probably be done in the future. I'm more worried about what can we currently put in the game so that people won't really have a need to have to max out their credit card because they want to look pretty.
Right.
Like it's in my opinion, it's better for people to be able to customize without having to worry about like, I guess, a paywall. So I personally am like, this is just my opinion. I personally feel like if it can be free or if it can be in launch, make sure that it's a pretty good launch. Like make sure that there are a lot of things that people can already do to customize themselves compared to modern games that will be like, okay, yeah, you have one helmet and everything else is behind a battle pass.
Yeah.
You don't want to come out any.
How would a Restitched
things.
battle pass even work? I'm just thinking about it. It's like duel to the death. Like what? It's just a teddy bear, man.
In terms of collaborations, that's not my decision, but I would absolutely love to see that. That's just my opinion.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that you are saying, you're wanting to add the value in the game so that people don't have to pay a bunch of money later. One memory I have of, I'm sure some of you share this, but if you all remember the game Club Penguin, I remember when I was younger, before I could make money, I would always get those, what were they called? Those cards.
Membership cards.
Membership
Club Penguin
cards.
membership cards.
And then I had one for like 6 months or whatever the time period was. And I remember, I think it was, you get to carry your little...
The puffle
with you.
Good old Puffles.
But, it would have been way better if they didn't have a paywall for children. So I'm just happy to hear that you're not aiming to do that.
That's actually exactly why I'm not aiming to do that, because I came from a lower income family, so I didn't really have the privilege to like get this outfit or this DLC or pay for this. I just generally had to use what they would give you. And another good old example is Neopets. They literally gave you a potato sack if you didn't have a membership. It's like
that's horrible.
Yeah, like
that's awful.
They gave you a potato sack and like, here's your cosmetic. Like,
and there's nothing worse than like in a game with customization where that is the main focus, to then see this like piece of customization that's so cool and you really want, and it's like, oh, that's $10.
Yeah,
can I really afford that?
Or worse, what happens with a lot of older UGC games I've played is you'll get some sort of community made costume or object or something that you might want to use, and they'll give it away to you for free in some sort of prize. And then it requires this whole bunch of DLC that you can no longer get because the game is so old that most of the licenses have expired, and even if you could afford the DLC, it's just not there anymore, and it's so disheartening and discouraging when you run into that. I've been there so many times. It's just not fun.
For me, like, just quickly, is that like even like the ones that really cost even just like £1 for DLC. But when I was younger, like I didn't have like a debit card. I wasn't paying taxes, so I couldn't get any of the some things I genuinely wanted. And to be fair, from what I remember in memory, these things were genuinely worth the price. They were amazing, and lots of content for so little. But of course, Baby Luke didn't have a credit card, so I never got to experience those because they were locked behind a paywall.
And that's another thing with collabs as well, as you said, like licensing. If you're licensing for a collab or whatever, that license will run out at some point, and then what do? Then you have to remove that content, but then some people still have that content, and then it's definitely a lot to think about.
That does remind me. That happened with a game called Dead by Daylight. They had a collaboration with Stranger Things, and that's like the only collaboration you can't buy again because it was just a limited time thing. And lots of people, and of course you got people like saying, "Oh, I have this account, you can buy it off me for like 1,000 because it has this collab." And, just
wow,
like it kind of causes a whole butterfly effect of people selling their accounts for real money,
right?
As it has just because they capitalize on fear of missing out. And in my opinion, you should never have to do fear of missing out if you really like your community that much.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, with Rust, you know how they have that whole skin marketplace thing?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that is Workshop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It's but it's all monetized. Like there's nothing free on it. You have to pay a lot of money just to get like one singular skin. Or if you buy a skin for like pretty cheap, you wait like a year or two and then you could sell it for a lot of money later. Like it's weird how the monetization works within that Steam market versus other workshops.
I think you may even there's another game that we like to play called Rivals of Ether, and it's very much community based. So a lot of the maps are community made, and a lot of the fighters that you play are straight up from Super Smash Brothers, or they're like Mario, and it's community made. So I'm wondering if that may actually be a possibility, is just give them the tools and the community can make whatever they want.
Isn't that the game that someone made Ronald McDonald and just made him really powerful?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Also, Sam. Yeah.
See, I love seeing chaos like that in the community.
Yeah. Oh, it's way more fun playing those characters.
I think we have an official statement on modding when it comes to Restitched, right, Billy?
hmm
Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Yeah, it's one of those things we're not really looking to support modding, at least at launch. I think we mostly just want to focus on, because as we mentioned before about the moderation, that's going to be such a big and heavy task, just with the stuff you can make in the game. So when it comes to stuff outside of the game as well, it's that's a whole nother ballpark.
we've already
Not
made
only
these
that-
tools that are designed to let you make what you want. You know, modding isn't even like kind of. I don't want to say it like this, but it's like, is it even like necessary with all the tools we've already given you? Like that's the idea that we want to give you that creative freedom from the get-go.
Right.
Yeah, and not only that, but with modding, it's not something you just turn on. You actually have to program the game in such a way that it supports loading custom modded data, modded scripts, even if you want to go that far with it. And it's time consuming, and in some cases it requires designing your game from the ground up to support it. So I mean, I'm personally not against modding, but I also know that it would be incredibly difficult for the team to implement it. So
Yeah, like totally understand the appeal of it and everything. It's so much fun, but from a developer side, it's so hard to keep on top of.
I'm sure the external modders will find a way to add it in, because they always do for games.
Probably.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
most likely, honestly. You see it happen with every Bethesda game.
Oh yeah.
Stuffy Boy has a really big head. It's going to be the first mod on ModDB, isn't it?
They actually added that as a feature for Sons of the Forest, right?
A big
Yeah,
head mode.
Yeah,
main
big
feature.
big head mode.
That's amazing.
It was hilarious.
And it's funny that you mentioned Bethesda as well, because they release like special editions on console and stuff. Like they just released that big Skyrim one,
The third or
again,
fourth one.
which has so many like community mods on there, but on console. So that's pretty cool. But yeah.
This could be, a quick yes, no, maybe answer. Because we're very much advocates for the Steam Deck. Are there any plans of having the game be Steam Deck verified, or is that a priority to you, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think we definitely have experimented with it. We have done some tests. I think Michael, didn't you test it on the Steam Deck?
Oh, I specifically bought my Steam Deck for Restitched. I've actually
Right.
I've actually programmed the game on it.
Fair enough.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's definitely something we're looking into. It's not I wouldn't say it's a priority. I'd say the priority is like the Windows based game, like the actual game itself. But definitely something we want to look into, because we do want as many people as possible to be able to play the game. So
I don't think we asked this earlier, but does the game have split screen multiplayer at all, or is it just online multiplayer?
We'll see.
I'm with Raphael on that.
yeah,
No plans for split screen, but I'm trying to get local and online multiplayer, and both working at the same time. We'll see.
What about any closed betas coming up in the future?
we'll definitely be looking into like hosting testing phases and such. A beta is definitely something we're interested in. It's just how we're going to go about and distribute that. We're not entirely sure yet, but yeah, there definitely will be a closed beta at some point.
We definitely want to be on that list.
Yes, please.
Definitely. There's no doubt about it. We are so eager. Yeah.
Check your inboxes.
Okay, well, that's pretty much everything we have. We're not going to take YouTube live chat. No, there's a ton of stuff in the YouTube. We're going to have to check it later. we're already way over time. We're taking up a lot of your time, but any closing thoughts or things you want to say to everyone listening, just to close things out?
I think, the main thing I want to say, as cheesy as it sounds, is just like a big thank you to our community and to you guys as well for like giving us this platform to be able to just share this and share, because this is a hobby for a lot of us. It's a passion project. So, we're doing this in our spare time, and just having all this support, it's really amazing, and it really does help us grow and help us develop the game. So, yeah.
I owe like the community all my thanks, and it's cheesy. This isn't even cheesy. I'm just gonna own it, because of like I came onto the team because of the Restitched trailer. That's like what my kind of catalyst was, and if that didn't get into my recommended because other people from the community were looking at it, I would have never been on the team. I would have never seen it. I would have never had this opportunity. So genuinely, whoever watched that trailer, you genuinely got me on the team. So I'm gonna give a big thanks to you.
For me personally, I do want to shout out to like all the people in the Trixel server who do fan art, because like just seeing the things they draw is honestly so inspirational.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
we have like a sorry, go on.
Some people may have like their outfit ideas, and I'm like, why didn't I think that? It's just things like that. It's so amazing to just see the creativity that the community already has, and for anyone who does often put fan art, I'll just say keep on uploading it, because I absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, we have a dedicated fan art channel on our development server where whenever we see any fan art, we post it in there and we all react to it. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really inspires us to keep going. So,
anybody else want to say anything?
Michael?
I would like to say, for one, I am so incredibly happy to be part of the team and part of the community. And a lot of you guys out there are the reason I joined Trixel, because when I first joined the community, I kind of came in thinking about all these different features I wanted to add to Restitch as a programmer. And I never thought that Trixel would actually, accept me as part of the team. When I first applied, like I kind of just did it because it felt like it, and I was bored and I wanted something to do. But being able to kind of share some of my ideas with everybody for joining the team, and a lot of my own personal projects, and having people discuss them and check them out has really encouraged me a lot as a programmer and as someone with blindness, to be able to realize that I can do this. And so thank you guys for helping me realize that. It means so much to me. And also I want to say, if any of you guys out there are struggling with disability, be it blindness, be it anything else, I want you guys to know that you can do this. If you want to create something like Restitched, like anything else, whether it be artistic, whether it be technical, with programming and stuff like that, try, because it may be more challenging, especially if you're blind, like me. I definitely struggle with it. I've had to do some weird, hacky things to be able to keep writing code with my disability, but it can be done. And I hope that when Restitch is released, that it helps people in the future get into game development despite what challenges they may face. Because UGC games have been a lot of the main reason I got into game development. It's how I learned to basically do this. So I hope that Restitch really helps people out with being inspiring and being able to realize that yes, you can do this, and do not let your disability get in the way of it.
Hell
That's
yeah,
awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And for people who like our Patreon subscribers as well, could not be more grateful. Like that money literally is the money that goes towards everything, that every cost that we have creating this game. So yeah, and on there we have Restitched Dev Diary, which goes into like the history behind certain aspects of development. So we have coming up conceptualizing Stuffy themselves, all the concept art, all that stuff. You get we have a feature called From the Vault, which has like anything that doesn't quite fit into any of our other posts. So like, oh, here's some pictures from the first month of development, that kind of thing. Like if you're interested in that development side, check out our Patreon because it's all on there.
Raphael, any closing thoughts? I know you weren't able to say.
I'll keep going with the promotion. If you go on the Trixel Creative website, you can apply to join the team. We're certainly looking for more people, especially programmers, and I couldn't be more grateful for Michael to show how anyone has something to bring to the table. I couldn't program the whole game by myself, and it's been great to see the drive of everyone in the team. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone wants to work on this, and we really care about the game deeply. And the team is fantastic. So I'm really grateful for everyone, and I think it shows that when we see the announcements that we make about the game, I think we're making something really special. So I'm really grateful for the community as well for following us. The game would be nothing without the community. So thank you, everyone.
Besides Patreon and on going on your Discord, how can people support the game?
I suppose just talking about it, sharing it. We know not everyone can join the Patreon. So honestly, just any way you can, really share, creating fan art. That's always so amazing. Just discussing it, just liking our tweets, getting like engagement, that kind of thing. Honestly, it's every little thing helps. So
Go wishlist it on Steam.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. Can
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Ooh,
can.
that would help.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yes, you can.
I
on
think
Steam,
all
you
three
can
of us have
wishlist
it wishlisted.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I really appreciate. We all appreciate you coming on the podcast. We are so excited. This is what you're making is something that we would have never dreamed would be worked on. It's like it's mind blowing. It's like bringing a part of our most cherished childhood to our adulthood lives. It's so special. Anyone watching, listening, whether on Spotify or YouTube, if you're looking to support a studio, this is, I can't think of a better one to do than to support than Trixel Creative.
Thank you.
They have a Discord. Check out their website. They have a YouTube channel. Like we said, Steam wish list, and their Patreon. Hey, I mean, if you have it, support them. You're supporting a good cause. You're supporting a good team, and you heard it here that their heart's in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone on the Trixel side, thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. We want early access, please, as soon as possible. But no, thank you all for coming on the podcast. And for everyone listening, we will see you in the next episode.